Hiya folks, it's Coach Kelvin here from the We Run Virtual Run Club and We Run Coach for Leeds and surrounding areas, as well as online coaching. In this little video, I'd like to chat about the lap button on GPS watches and also Strava segments and how we can use these things to monitor our training over longer periods of time. And quite often people have their watches set on like an auto lap where it pings a pace every mile or kilometre. And this can be useful, but it can also be really distracting for runners where they're like, oh, I was a bit slower than I thought, or I was a bit faster than I thought. And it can actually take something away from, that sort of perceived effort and the feel of a run. And it might not have that much use anyway. So something that I do is I take off the auto lap feature that shows me a mile split because I work in miles. It still shows me that at the end. It still shows my splits on Garmin Connect and Strava. It just doesn't show me them whilst I'm running. And what I do is I actually use the lap button, which on a Garmin, it's the button on the right at the bottom, to create my own splits. So an example would be if I've got a run that I do on a, let's say like a regular basis, that might be 2 hills in the run. I set off from home and when I get to the top of the first hill, I hit the lap button. When I get to the bottom of the first hill, I hit the lap button. Top of the second hill, hit the lap button, and then I stop the watch when I get home. So then I get my splits for the uphills and the downhills separate. And if I just left my watch to just auto lap on the mile, some of the miles might be sort of part of an up and part of a down. So it'd be really difficult to kind of work out any sort of progression. And then what I can do is I can then use the same run over long periods of time and look back at my history on Garmin to see, the speed against heart rate just for the climbs and the speed against heart rate just for the descents. And a lot of people don't think of using it like that, and they quite often think of using it more for kind of interval type sessions, which is really useful again as well, rather, on the kind of Wednesday night audio runs that John does. When the effort starts, you can hit the lap button. When it finishes, you can hit the lap button, and so on. And it'll analyze the run for you so you can see your pace for the efforts. So if Coach Alexa's maybe prescribing some half marathon pace efforts, you can actually go back and look and see what your pace was to see if it was a little bit over or a little bit under your current half marathon pace. So we then can review workouts and use that knowledge to adjust workouts in the future. So any questions on the lap button, please let me know. So the other thing that's really useful for monitoring training is Strava segments. And to get the full sort of history of Strava segments, you do need to subscribe to Strava. So you do need to have a premium account. But I think it's worth it almost just for this feature. I just went for about 6 months without being premium. And this is the only feature really that I missed because I use Training Peaks for other parts of my training, monitoring other things. But Strava segments, there's certain segments on runs that I do, or I actually specifically use Strava segments to train on. And then I can look back and Strava will show my history on that segment over whatever period of time. So some segments I've got like a year's worth of history on there. And, I often use those sort of similar runs for similar workouts. So I can kind of see over time the kind of progression. Obviously, it doesn't just kind of go up. It goes up a bit, down a bit, up a bit. But I can just look for these general trends to see how I'm going on certain sections. And we can use this to monitor progression over long periods of time. And the great thing about Strava segments as well is you can make up your own. So if you've got like a place where you do some, 800 meter hill reps, for instance, you can make the uphill on the 800 a Strava segment of your own, so that you can always do your kind of 800 hill reps on that section, and you can use that to analyze your performance on that hill rep over long periods of time. I'll pop a couple of examples of this in the comments below as screenshots so that you can see what it looks like using the lap button. But what I generally recommend is to turn the auto lap off, otherwise things can get really confusing with the kind of like kilometer splits and your own splits. And maybe just try going out, maybe try doing one of the guided audio runs and using the lap button, and then use that kind of information to review whether you're a little bit fast or a little bit slow on the paces. So I hope that makes some sort of sense, and please, if you have any questions or thoughts on this, just post them in the comments below. And for now, happy running!